A rapper's family speaking out after she was found shot to death in Atlanta. Why they say she was targeted.
Someone knew she was pregnant, and they killed her anyway. Not in the heat of an argument, not in a panic. They knew where she would be. They knew what time she would be there. They positioned themselves in front of her vehicle in the pitch dark of a southeast Atlanta street, and they fired 4 bullets directly into her face while a 14-week-old life was growing inside of her. Then they got in a car and drove away. Calm, clean, gone. That is not a crime of passion. That is a decision. A planned, calculated, deliberate decision to erase 2 lives at once and leave no trace behind. Her name was Qualeisha Barnes. Most people in Atlanta and Detroit knew her as Siditty. And before this video is over, you are going to understand exactly why her mother is not just grieving. She is pointing fingers, out loud, on camera, because she believes she knows the shape of what happened to her daughter. And the shape of it is not random. It is personal. It is intimate, and it is still walking free. Stay with me, because this case goes deeper than the headlines let on. But first, if you believe that women like Qualeisha deserve the same outrage, the same coverage, the same relentless pursuit of truth as anybody else, subscribe to Mystora Crimes right now. Hit that bell, like this video, because every single one of those actions tells the world that her life mattered, that her baby mattered, that we do not move on until there are answers. This channel exists for people like her, and it only keeps going because of people like you. Now let's talk about who Qualeisha Barnes really was, because if you only read the headlines, you got maybe 10% of her. She grew up in Southwest Detroit, and if you know anything about that city, you know that Southwest Detroit does not raise soft people. It raises people who know how to want something badly enough to go get it without anyone handing it to them. Qualeisha was exactly that kind of person. She was building multiple lives simultaneously and succeeding at all of them, which is rarer than people admit. She went by Siditty, a name her own mother says describe her perfectly. Siditty means you carry yourself like you know your worth, like you are put together, like you do not shrink for anybody. And that was Qualeisha to the core. She had a catalog of music that showed real skill and real hunger. Tracks like Get a Check, Turn to the Bank, Really Mean It. She collaborated with I Swear Vetso, Babyface Ray, Peasy, names that carry genuine weight in Detroit hip-hop. She released an album called Ditty of My City that was essentially a love letter to where she came from, recorded while she was planting roots somewhere new, because about a decade before she died, she relocated to Atlanta. And here is where the picture gets even more interesting. Most people who leave Detroit for Atlanta are chasing the music industry. The culture, the energy. Qualeisha was doing that. But she was also doing something else entirely. She enrolled in nursing school. Quietly. Seriously. She made the dean's list. She was 2 semesters from graduating when she was killed. Her mother said she was so proud of herself that it was visible, that it radiated off of her. And her family was proud too, the kind of proud that fills up a room. She also ran her own online clothing boutique called So Siditty. So when you try to build a picture of this woman, what you get is not someone drifting or struggling or caught in something she cannot escape. What you get is someone accelerating, someone stacking achievements and adding new dimensions to herself year after year. That psychological profile matters enormously when you start trying to understand why someone wanted her dead. Because women who are building, women who are growing, women who are becoming hard to control or contain, sometimes that ambition threatens the people closest to them in ways that are not immediately obvious from the outside. And then there is a pregnancy, 14 weeks along, which means she had known for at least a few weeks, possibly longer, which means conversations had happened. Decisions had been discussed or avoided or fought over in private. There was a father somewhere in her life, and that father, whoever he is, has not been publicly named. Not by police, not by the family, not by anyone, but the silence around that detail is louder than almost anything else in this case. Now here is where the tension starts to build. And I need you to pay close attention to the language Qualeisha's mother, Francine Lopez Stewart, used when she spoke to reporters, because she was not vague. She was not speaking the careful, measured way people speak when they do not know what happened. She said she believes her daughter was targeted because of the pregnancy. She said she believed Qualeisha may have been lured, her word lured, to that location. And then she said this: if you instigate something that causes a murder, you need to go to jail too. Instigate, lured, more than one person responsible. That is a mother who is not describing a random shooting. That is a mother who believes her daughter was set up by someone she trusted, someone who knew her routine, someone who could get her to Springside Place SE at 1:23 in the morning without triggering alarm bells. Because Qualeisha was not a careless woman. She was sharp. She was ambitious. She was street-aware in a way that women who grow up in Southwest Detroit tend to be. You do not get her somewhere dangerous at that hour without being someone she believed was safe, and that narrows the circle considerably. Think about it from a behavioral standpoint. Who has access to a woman at 1 in the morning? Who can send a message, make a call, say, come meet me, and have her get in her Range Rover without hesitation? That is not a stranger. That is not even an acquaintance. That is someone woven into the fabric of her daily life. Atlanta police confirmed the shooting is being treated as a homicide. Lieutenant Christopher Butler told reporters that investigators had a general route that Barnes' vehicle had taken that night and were retracing her movements. They were pulling surveillance footage. They were canvassing neighbors. But as of the time of this video, no suspect has been named. No arrest has been made. And the person or people responsible are still out there, living their lives, while Qualeisha's family is planning a funeral for two. Let me tell you what the crime scene itself communicates. Because crime scenes speak when perpetrators think they have gone silent. Qualeisha was found in the driver's seat of her white Range Rover, which had come to rest in the middle of the roadway. Not parked, not crashed, just stopped. Like the car kept rolling after she was no longer able to drive it. The shots came from outside the vehicle, through the windshield, which means whoever fired those shots was standing or positioned directly in front of her car, looking at her. She may have seen them coming. She may have recognized the face in her headlights in the last moments of her life. 4 shots, all to the face. In behavioral analysis, that kind of targeting, repeated, concentrated, aim at the face specifically, is rarely random. The face is personal. Attacking someone's face is an act that goes beyond simply wanting them gone. It speaks to rage, or it speaks to a deliberate choice to destroy identity, beauty, recognition. Qualeisha's mother literally described her daughter as someone who loved beauty, loved makeup, loved dressing up. She was Siditty, put together, confident, radiant. And someone chose to take 4 shots at exactly that. You have to ask yourself whether that was a coincidence or a message. Now I want to take you somewhere uncomfortable, because the statistics around cases like this are not abstract. They are a pattern, and the pattern is damning. When a pregnant woman is murdered in the United States, research consistently shows that the most likely perpetrator is someone within her intimate circle, not a stranger, not a random act of street violence. Pregnancy, as difficult as this is to sit with, is one of the most statistically dangerous periods in a woman's life, not because of illness or complication, but because of the people already around her. Why does pregnancy trigger violence in people who are supposedly close to the victim? Several reasons, and none of them are comfortable. A pregnancy creates obligation. It complicates existing relationships, especially ones that were not built to sustain the weight of a child. It can expose things that were supposed to stay hidden. Affairs, other families, financial situations, lies that a pregnancy suddenly makes impossible to maintain. And in some cases, in the worst cases, someone in that situation looks at the pregnancy and sees a problem rather than a person. And they start calculating. The fact that Qualeisha's own family is explicitly pointing to the pregnancy as the motive tells you that they believe they know what kind of problem she represented to someone. They may not be naming that someone publicly yet, but they know the shape of it. A mother who says her daughter was lured is a mother who has thought carefully about who had the ability to do that luring. And she wants that person accountable, not just the shooter, but the one who designed the situation. Which brings me to the detail that I genuinely cannot stop turning over. If this was a planned hit, and the evidence suggests it was, then someone paid for it, arranged it, or personally carried out with enough calm and preparation to leave almost no trace. A residential street, 1 in the morning. 4 shots. Clean getaway. A nearby resident heard the shots and a car speeding away. That is it. No witnesses stepping forward. No suspects named. Whoever did this either got extraordinarily lucky or knew exactly what they were doing and prepared accordingly. That level of coldness, that level of operational control in the middle of the night on a residential street, that is not someone who snapped. That is someone who made peace with what they were about to do before they did it. And that is the most frightening kind of person in any true crime case. Not the one who loses control. The one who never loses it. So here is where I leave you. And I want you to really sit in these questions before you scroll to the comments, because I think this community is capable of the kind of analysis that matters. If Qualeisha was lured, and her mother believes she was, what does that tell you about the level of trust she had in whoever contacted her that night? How do you manipulate a sharp, street-aware, Dean's List woman into a vulnerable position at 1 in the morning unless she genuinely believed she was safe? What does that say about how well this person knew her? About how long they had been in her life? About what kind of relationship gave them that access? And what about the pregnancy itself? If the motive was connected to the baby, and the family keeps bringing us back there, what was the father of that child afraid of? What did that pregnancy expose or threaten or complicate that was worth 2 lives to keep buried? And finally, do you think Atlanta investigators will find the answers before this case goes cold? Because cases involving pregnant women, cases where the victim is a black woman without a massive public platform, cases where the perpetrator was careful and clean, those cases have a heartbreaking history of going unsolved. Qualeisha's family is refusing to let that happen quietly, but they need help. If you know anything about what happened on Springside Place SE on April 8, 2026, please contact Crime Stoppers Atlanta anonymously at 404-577-TIPS. You do not have to give your name. You just have to make the call. Drop your theory in the comments right now. Who do you think is behind this? Do you believe the pregnancy was the motive? Do you think the person who orchestrated this is someone she trusted completely? And do you think they will be caught? This community finds things. This community asks the questions that need be asked. So talk to me. Subscribe to Mystora Crimes. Share this video. Because the best thing we can do for Qualeisha Barnes and her unborn child is make sure the world never stops asking what happened to them. Mystora Crimes, where secrets, justice, and humanity collide. We are not done with this case, and neither should you be.